Get ready with me as I talk to you about being a second-time mom versus a first-time mom. The first time I became a mom was 4 years ago, and I gave birth to a healthy and very large baby boy who left me kind of injured. I say kind of, I had like pretty significant birth injuries, and that really contributed to, I think, a lot of my anxiety and postpartum depression after giving birth. It took me a while to come to terms with what was going on, but I think the main things that tipped me off to my mood changes were that I felt really overwhelmed all the time. My postpartum anxiety was manifesting as not being able to sleep even when I wasn't feeding the baby and when the baby was sleeping, and just overall a general feeling of hopelessness and wondering if I would ever feel like myself again. I think that's something that people don't really talk about enough, is this sense of loss of self. That really surprised me the first time around because I didn't know that I was going to completely feel like I had lost my whole identity and I wasn't sure if I would ever get it back. I think it took a good maybe 6 months for my mood to start improving after I gave birth to my son 4 years ago. And I only know this now because I was able to go back and look at diaries that I had written from back in the day. And honestly, my heart really breaks for that first time mom that I was, going through all of the injuries that I had, feeling so overwhelmed about breastfeeding and sleep training and just keeping this little human alive and trying so hard to do the right thing, even though now, this time around, I know that there's no real right way to do everything when it comes to parenting, and you kind of go with the flow and you parent the child that you have. This time around, I gave birth to my daughter a month ago, and I decided that because I had such a really horrific injury and experience last time with my son doing a vaginal delivery, this time I opted to do an elective C-section, which my OB offered to me because of my history. And even though the C-section was not easy to recover from, it still was easier than my vaginal delivery. And being a second-time mom, I just felt so much less stressed this time around because I kind of already knew what to expect. And most of all, I gave myself more grace and I wasn't so uptight and controlling about everything. Like, I knew that if I pumped one time or if I skipped one pump, it didn't mean that my milk supply was going to completely tank. Nothing is permanent. There was also just so much less stress this time around just learning everything, like learning how to store milk, learning how to use a breast pump, learning how to breastfeed. Now, I'm not saying that it wasn't painful because Lord knows, breastfeeding was still super painful for the first 2 weeks. But this time around, I didn't feel like this general hopelessness and also complete loss of self. Like, I knew, based off of my last time's experience, that after some time, I am gonna feel like myself again, and it's not gonna last forever. And so I think my mood this time around has been so much better. I also knew to get a lot more support and help this time, whereas last time we had a lot of drama, like with my nanny quitting after 10 days, and also my husband not being able to take a really long pat leave. He only got 2 weeks. And that was really hard when, I was so injured that I couldn't walk for 6 weeks. It really made a difference this time that my mom came to help us out, and then we also had a nanny. Of course, the difference this time is I also had a 4-year-old running around who still needs a lot of attention and help adjusting. But all in all, I'm just so grateful that this time around I didn't experience that kind of hopeless feeling, and even though I did have some anxiety that manifested as insomnia, it has gotten a lot better, a lot faster than it did the first time. So I'm just grateful for that. Work-wise, I took about 1 month off of seeing patients, and I'm really excited to get back into it. I've had a lot of patients waiting for me to come back for a while now, and I'm starting to travel and work with brands again. This week, I'm actually going to AAD, our big annual derm conference, and that's gonna be in San Diego. And then I'm actually going to London at the end of the month. So what I'm more stressed out about at this point is figuring out how to transport all my breast milk and fly internationally, because that's always a logistical challenge. I'm gonna get ready to film some content now. Let me know if you have any topics that you want me to cover.